your Lake Fork guide. Hey, we are going to talk about Lake Fork Spring Bass Fishing 2024. Right now, today, we're going to give you more information than you'll find anywhere else on exactly how you can go catch your own giant on Lake Fork today. Let's get some music cranked up. I think this is the mood the fish are in, so we're going to rock with this tonight. Y'all listen to some tunes while I go grab some baits, and we can talk about them and show you the exact baits we're using, talk about the areas, break down everything you need to know about how to catch them. Excuse me, so rude. Cheers, y'all. That's what the fish are saying. They feel like making love. You know what I'm saying? It's spawning season, baby. They up in that cane doing that thing. Let's go. It's a balancing act over here right now. You can't see it, but it's a balancing act, folks. We're almost there. Woo! Let's get it, everybody. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Sorry I was running late. Come off the ball fields. Ball practice lasted a little longer than it should have, because that's just the kind of coach I am. But, oh well. Here we are now, and we're all here. We're all settled in. Let's all settle in for a lovely evening. Let me gather my thoughts for a second here, and let's get after what's going on at Lake Fork. Man, I want to take some time to say thank you to each and every one of you guys that is joining us tonight. Appreciate you guys following along. If you saw the Facebook post earlier, a lot of good fish pictures, man. A lot of quality fish being caught right now. Not overall a lot of fish being caught on a day-to-day basis in my particular boat, the way I'm fishing, but man, we're catching some good ones. Like, it's consistently some quality fish getting the old boat flip action, you know what I mean? So it's been a good time lately. It's been stressful and hard work at times as far as fishing goes, as much stress as that can be, but it's been good. And man, I really do appreciate you guys following. You know, we're trying to start up a new kind of tournament trail where you guys can weigh your slot fish in the boat and release them. I've got a box full of scales over here that are very accurate. They weigh within, you know, just 1 or 2 100ths of a pound is the only difference you'll get in them. So for our level of tournament that we're going to do with that, I think that's going to be plenty close enough. And we're going to try to start a new tournament trail where you guys can catch slot fish and weigh them and really get your best 5 on the board at Lake Fork and get some big bags weighed in at the amateur level, at our weekend angler level. We were going to try to do a test run this Sunday if we got 5 boats. I made a mistake. I know there's a memorial tournament out there this weekend. I did not know it was on Sunday. I swore I saw that it was on Saturday. That's why I last minute kind of decided, hey, let's try to do a test run on Sunday. So I don't want to pull anybody from that. So stay tuned to the Facebook page. We'll probably be making an announcement that we are going to not do that deal on Sunday and move that a couple weeks ahead when my next available Sunday is probably March 31st. I need to talk to some guys and see what's up. Right now, we've just got a couple guys that have been interested. Most of the people say, man, I'm interested in a future date, but I can't make this one. And a lot of the people are fishing that memorial tournament. If you don't know, there was a high school kid that passed away like very kind of odd circumstances, very unexpected. I never really heard about what happened or how what the kid passed away from, but one of our high school anglers did pass away, and there's a memorial tournament. So if you were thinking about fishing that deal with us, I would encourage you to go fish that instead, and show that family some support. It's always good in the fishing community when we show each other support, and usually in the fishing community, we do a great job of showing that support. So we need to do that. So we will probably make an announcement later tonight on Facebook that we're going to postpone that deal, move that first trial run tournament 2 weeks out, and get after it. But it's going to be fun, man. We're going to have to be very strict about the rules about how you weigh the fish. You're going to have to document the weighing of the fish. We're going to have individual identifiers that you have to include in the documentation of weighing them. And for those that participate, we'll explain it all when we get there that morning. We'll give demonstrations. But I think I've come up with a way that removes all realistic possibilities of cheating by using that system. And you can never eliminate all possibilities of cheating in fishing. They do it. There's guys cheating on the Elite Series right now. Top secret. There are cheaters on the top level. And there's cheaters through all levels of fishing. But at this level, it's not going to be very rampant. We're not going to be fishing for enough money for anybody to really risk anything, especially in the beginning. So we'll do that, and we may move that out 2 weeks, like we said. Lake Fork, there's fish spawning. There's a lot of fish spawning. We're kind of between waves right now. We're 6-7 days after the new moon, so the new moon spawners for this weekend are up and doing their thing. They're on the beds. They're locked in. Now, with that new moon that came in last weekend, there was a cold front. If you fished last weekend that you're aware of. I think from what I can gather and what I've seen, it seems like that cold front has limited the amount of fish that came in on the new moon. So there's not fish up everywhere by any means, and there's not a whole lot of fish up, to be honest with you, right now spawning today at this moment. If you get in the right pocket, it feels like there is a lot of fish up, and in the right areas, there is a lot of fish up. But you get in some other areas, there's not very many up at all. In some areas, there's none. So if you're wanting to bed fish, you're going to have to be prepared to strike out in some areas and have to keep searching. And that's no big deal when you're bed fishing. I do it all the time. Cruise through an area, you only see one or two, they're not really locked on, move on, go to the next area. Or pick off the one or two if they're active enough to. It just makes it to where you have to spend more time searching than you do actually fishing for those bed fish when there's not as many of those fish up on the beds. So, it's kind of a deal where you got to decide, do I want to bed fish that bad or do I want to just go regular fishing? And you can catch some fish up shallow regular fishing. What I will tell you is there's not very many of the shallow point fish, which is another pattern we normally have on Fork. I have not been... I kind of know how that works, and usually you need more post spawners to get all the way done and get back out there before that deal really has enough fish on it to be consistent, and to be something you can actually go make days out of and have those real good days like you can on shallow point deals, shallow windblown point. Also, there's so much good shallow cover in these spawning coves. Last year what happened is a lot of the fish hung out in the coves and did their post spawn feeding in the coves and never made it out to the shallow points last year. There was not a great shallow point bite last year. There just never was. We're in a similar situation this year. The lake was about 2 foot low last year, but it had come up from 6 foot low. Well, this year it was 2 or 3 foot low, and it came up to full. So we're in a very similar situation where we may not get a real good shallow point bite this year at all to speak of. So right now, if you want to not bed fish for them, you really got to still fish the bank, the areas they would be spawning in, or right out in front of that on the cover around it. Now, you can live scope those fish, and there's a lot of guys trying that right now. And that's certainly a very realistic option, especially to target a bigger fish. But you don't have to. So if you want to live scope, all you do is the areas that they've been spawning in, that you think fish have been spawning in, you pull right out from that. Or you think they're about to spawn in. You pull just right out from that in that 4 to 8 foot range, maybe 10 foot at the deepest. And you live scope your timber and you cover that's out there, and you do your live scope thing. If you're doing that, then, a jerkbait's really good, but also a wacky Senko pretty good for those live scope fish right now. A swim bait can get, like a line through swim bait, a smaller line through. Some you can swim real slow over them that'll hover real high in the water column above them because you're fishing relatively shallow water for scoping, really shallow water for scoping. That can work for live scope fishing. But I know there's plenty of you guys out there that are anti-live scope, or there's plenty of you guys out there that can't afford to put it on your boat or just don't have it yet. For whatever reason, you're not live scoping. For you guys to go regular fishing, there's a few different things you can do. There's a winding bite. There's what I call a winding bite and a dobbing bite. And what I mean by that is there's a bite where you can cover some water and buzz a bait through there, winding it, swimming stuff through the junk, the flooded cover on the bank. Or you can dob something in there, mainly a wacky worm right now is the thing that's working best that I've seen is a wacky worm. You can go wacky rig trick worm or you can go wacky rig Senko. But there's a winding bite and a dobbing bite. So let's talk about that first. Okay, so on the winding bite, there was a really, really good swim jig bite. You heard some of the Elite Series guys allude to it. This is kind of a swim jig that's been working real good. Just a white and chartreuse swim jig with a little white paddle tail trailer. If you like the crawl baits better, use them. I like swim baits on my swim jigs, but just a white with a little bit of hint of chartreuse swim jig with a pure white swim bait trailer cut down to a nice little compact profile like what you saw, using a 3/8 ounce swim jig, keep it high in the water column and all that flooded cover. So that's the swim jig that was doing really well. And some guys were throwing green, but mostly white was kind of the best color on the swim jig bite. For me, the swim jig bite is faded. It's not, it's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit and been changed over to a swim bait bite. Now, not a big swim bait, but I've gone to a watermelon seed colored Reaction Innovation Skinny Dipper is the bait that I've been throwing. I've been throwing that on a 5/0 underspin owner flashy swimmer. Not an underspin, but an owner flashy swimmer. It's a weedless swim bait hook with a little blade underneath it. But that green color seems to do better for me than the white does. I've thrown both green and white. The green's been doing better. I don't know if they're starting to get locked in on those brim as they get in those spawning areas or what the deal is, but the water's pretty clear. I'm trying to stay in some pretty clean water most of the time. So it's the watermelon seed or green colored swim bait's been the deal. And man, that's the simplest bait. I love it for guide customers. It's the simplest bait you could ever fish. You literally throw it out, you point right at it. The key is to make the line come straight out of your rod. You point right down the line with the rod and you reel. And that bait will bulldog through all the nastiest, heaviest cover you ever wanted to slide right through it. And when you get a bite, kind of hesitate for a second. Like, you know, you rig that bait like a Texas rig on that swim bait hook. So when you get a bite, you want to treat it like Texas. Kind of lift and feel. Do you got any weight there? Did the fish get it? If you feel weight, hammer down. If you don't, keep reeling. A lot of times the fish will come back and get it. So that bait is effective at times on Lake Fork right now. And then the wacky bait. So a green pumpkin Senko or anything, any kind of green Senko wacky rig is fine. Bait that I actually prefer, it seems to get more bites for me, is the wacky rig trick worm. I've been throwing the Houdini color. Man, you could throw any kind of green color you wanted to, watermelon, red, green pumpkin, kind of whatever your confidence is. Ooh, that keeper's a little tight on there on that one. But I'll give you a look at it. So here's a wacky rig trick worm. I've got a half of a nail weight broke off and put in the head, rigging it right behind that little egg sac deal on the trick worm that they have there. I usually like to go about 3 ribs behind it. This one's caught a couple fish, so we've moved it up as that hole wallered out. The hook that I'm using is a Gamakatsu Finesse Wide Gap Weedless. It's a small wacky hook, but it's got a very heavy gauge wire for how small it is. I've had fish up to 12 pounds get in the boat on that little bitty wacky hook right there, so it can hold up to a really big fish. But man, we're taking this and also just dotting, what I call it a dobbing bait. I mean, I'm just dobbing it in there. Just dobbing it around that shallow cover. If you find, anytime you find a circle shaped hole in a solid line of vegetation, there's either a fish in there spawning or there was one in there spawning at one time. So you might want to flip in there, you know what I mean? But if I find any kind of cuts in the edges, I really focus on visually, without going up there looking for fish, where would a fish be spawning? And that's kind of what I tend to focus on throwing at. Now, are the fish always spawning when I throw at them in there? Not always. Sometimes they're just there. They're guarding fry, or they're cruising, or they're doing whatever they're doing, waiting to spawn, getting ready. Sometimes you just get lucky and hit them on the head. if you're not in the right area, this bite will be really, really slow on you. I will tell you that. The winding bite and the dobbing bite will be very slow on you when you're not in the right areas. And sometimes if you're in the area where they're really spawning, that's the worst area that you could do the other fishing in, because once those fish are locked in on those beds hot and heavy, they get hard to catch if you're not looking at them. You can catch one every once in a while by flipping a whack in there or burning the swim bait bite, but for the most part, most of those fish, once they're really spawning, you're gonna have to be throwing on that bed repetitively to catch that fish 9 times out of 10. Poke myself with the hook a little bit there. Ouch. So that's what's going on the shallow bite. Trying to think if I can give you guys any more in-depth stuff on that real quick. I don't think so. Just cover water till you start getting bites. Once you start getting bites, pick it apart. I mean, that is a big deal. You got to remember right now, these fish aren't moving. All these fish that we're fishing for, none of them are chasing bait. None of them are traveling from one area to another. They're not nomadic. They're not roaming around. These fish that we're targeting are sitting down. And they're either on a bed, or they just came off a bed and they're hanging around, or they're about to get on a bed and they're hanging around. Either way, they're just not moving. So I have a theory, and when they move, you move. So that means when they don't move, you don't move. So once you've located some fish, I cannot stress how important it is for you to go into peepaw mode and just daub around. Even with the winding baits, man, be repetitive. Go through that area with a fine-tooth comb with the winding baits once you start getting some bites. That's real important right now. These fish are sitting very still, and you got to put the bait right on them, sometimes multiple times, to get them to bite, even if they're not spawning at that moment. Now, one bait that I really like throwing, this is my favorite bait to throw when I'm not bed fishing right now. The problem with this bait is they're either on it or they're not. We had some days, a couple days, where they bit it and we caught the fire out of them. In fact, the thumbnail fish that you guys saw at the beginning of this video, it was caught on this bait. And that particular day, they were stomping on it, dude. It was unbelievable. And there's days when they won't even look at it. Usually the warmer the weather is that morning, like the warmer the morning air temps are, and if the water temp's been kind of rising, they'll bite this bait a lot better. And if the water has not been rising in temperature, we've had a cold front or we've had a cold morning that morning, they usually don't bite it. That's what I'm seeing right now. But the old frog, everybody loves frog fishing, man. It's so much fun. The bites are so intense. I'm fishing a frog, and I'm fishing that Toad Thumper frog by, Toad Thumper Lures, and I don't remember what this frog's called, but it's the Toad Thumper frog. You can find it. It's Whiskey Myers. Cody Cannon started this company. Lead singer Whiskey Myers started this company and designed this frog with the help of some of his fishing friends. And that dude's for real when it comes to fishing. And this is the best frog I've ever thrown. It's a phenomenal frog. I've been throwing the white. White's usually a deal early in the year, but man, I threw this color in summer last year like this. I like this color a lot. I catch a lot of them on it. But you get whatever color you're confident in. I will tell you one thing, because this frog deal has not been a one bite here, one bite there deal. They're either biting it and you're getting quite a few bites, or they're not biting it at all. Because of that, I'm fishing the frog extremely fast. I'm fishing as fast as I've ever fished a frog. I'm throwing that bait out there, pointing my rod down, and twitch. I'm literally twitching it like it's just going all the way back to the boat. I'm fishing the frog extremely fast. And on the days they're on it, they're not missing it. They're chewing it, like they're choking it. They're getting it down there. So fish that frog aggressive, fish it fast, and they'll tell you pretty quick. If you fished it for 45 minutes and ain't got a bite, they're probably not biting it that day. That's just probably the reality is. So, but it's fun. And when you get them on that frog bite, you're going to catch big ones. Like if you get a day when they're biting a frog right now, you're fixing to load the boat with some big fish. Like it's going to be a good day. So it's worth a shot early in the morning, see if you can get them bite it, because it can be kind of a home run deal for you. So that leaves the bedfish. So y'all know I love bedfish. It's like my very favorite way to catch them is bed fishing. It's such a mental challenge and game between you and the fish. It's kind of a mixture of hunting and fishing, and there's so many details, and we went over a lot of them the other night in that video that we put out, where you got to be stealthy and you got to stay away from the fish and get to the ones you can't really see, and there's a lot that goes on there. But man, go back and watch that video if you haven't. It's got a lot of great information about how to catch bedfish. but I love bed fishing, man. So for the spawning fish, when you find them on a bed and you set up on them, as far as a bait that you want to throw on them, the baits don't really matter very much. If you're visually looking at them, you can throw a couple different baits. You can throw, and I know there's guys that swear by this bait or that bait. This bait makes a bed fish go crazy. No, it doesn't. Where you throw it and how you place it in there and how you make it act is what makes a fish go crazy. I can assure you it does not matter what you throw into a bed as far as the bait. I will say the setup to me matters because it's the setup that gives me the control I need over the bait to make the bait behave correctly to irritate that fish. That is going to be a simple setup. I've got an offset straight shaped worm hook, as you see there. I've got a 3/8 ounce tungsten. I've got a red glass bead right here and a bobber stop right above it. I'll leave that little gap between the weight and the bobber stop so that when I'm shaking the bait in the bed, it goes. Get that little clicking sound, that weight bouncing on that bead. As far as the bait you put on there, I have two rules. I want something with swimming appendages, thin appendages that will swim at the slightest water pressure. And I want something that is compact so that the fish has less of a chance to grab the bait and miss the hook. I don't want a lizard. I don't want a brush hog. I don't want anything long where they can grab the back end and not get the hook. If they get the bait, I want them to get the hook when I'm bed fishing, because they will, dude. On a bed, they'll grab the back end of it. You throw a lizard in there, they'll pick that lizard up by the tail, run it out, and spit it out a bunch before they ever get the hook. So I like compact, little creature baits. Googan Baits Bandito Bug is really good. Any kind of crawl bait, Berkeley Chigger Crawl, Rage Crawl, 6-inch Stroker Crawl. Man, you can go down the list. All those crawl baits can work really well on a bed. That part doesn't matter. You need thin appendages that swim. You need a compact bait. That's what matters. The key is to get that bait in there. And one of the biggest keys that I don't remember if we talked about in that video or not is having the bait awareness to know when you're shaking that bait. If you shake it and your slack line gets tight and you continue to shake even for a little bit, that's going to hop that bait forward. You don't want that. You want that bait to stay in one place and just kind of shimmy and vibrate in that bed. And as you do that, it's going to start sliding forward no matter what, no matter how sensitive you are and how bait aware you are, knowing when you're at the end of your slack when you're shaking. But it's a very light, subtle shake. I wish I could bottle up the way I shake it and sell it. I know I'd make a lot of money, because if you've been a customer in my boat, a lot of you have seen, you're got the bait in there and you're shaking it, and that fish is just kind of looking at it, and then I'll flip in there and shake it, and that fish will go whoop, and it's a different deal. If you get the shimmy right, you will catch a lot of bedfish. And all I can tell you is it's fast and sharp, but I'm keeping the bait in one place better than a lot of guys that are customers in my boats. Or I'm coming closer to that. It's shaking through the bait, moving forward barely, just a little bit at a time as it goes through there, so it's staying in their bed in the area they don't want it in for a longer time. So, but it's really about playing on their emotions. And does the fish want the bait to swim in there, drop right beside it? Does the fish want the bait to sit in the bed and let the fish come to it? If you hit the fish, does that irritate him? Or if you hit the fish, does it make them run away and cool off? It's all about ramping their behavior up. The more you see them spin and come to your bait, the more you see them nose down on the bait, keep doing whatever made it do that, and eventually the fish will bite most of the time. And it's kind of that simple. Now, another bait that I've been throwing on beds is not available exactly to you guys. You can get one similar to it that'll work. And it certainly work as good for bed fishing as this one would. But, man, I've been throwing a jig on a bed a lot more this year. And this is a 3/4 ounce jig, which I like because I can really feel it, and it helps me. The heavier the bait is, the easier it is to keep it in one spot. The heavier the bait is, the more impact it has on the fish when you bump them with it. The more they feel it. So if you got a fish that gets fired up by you hitting the fish with the bait by bouncing the bait off the fish, well, the heavier the bait is, the more that's going to irritate the fish, because it's going to be more of an impact. But I've been throwing one of our prototype Bass Amigos Versa jigs. This bait will be out in a matter of weeks. Man, we keep getting, it should already be here by now from what we were told in the beginning. It should have been here a while ago. The manufacturing place keeps pushing it back and pushing it back on us. So right now I'm as frustrated as y'all are if you're wanting to get it. This is a jig head I designed. It's the most weedless jig head I've ever fished while still hooking the fish correctly. It sticks them in the top of the dome piece 9 times out of 10. I love this jig. I'm so proud of it, and I've designed it, and it came out Oh, it's my baby. This is my baby right here. So because I do love it so much, I've been bed fishing with it. Also, if you watch that video, I've been starting to play some with the live sonar with the deeper bedfish. So there are some bedfish on good visibility days that'll be so deep you can see them when you're right on top of them, but if you move away at all, you can't even see the bed. So I've been getting about 40 feet away from those fish and pinging them with live sonar. When I do, I go to this jig 100% of the time because I can actually verify that my bait's in the bed. I can see my bait fall into the bed so much better with this jig. For whatever reason, it shows up better. You know, the profile just shows up bigger on live sonar than that Texas rig does. So when I'm on a deeper bed and I'm actually utilizing live sonar to bed fish, which is something I've started messing with under the right, not a whole lot, but under the right circumstances, I've been playing with it. I've been using the jig exclusively on that. And I've been using it a lot on the fish I can visually see with my eyes too. I've always kind of had both tied on. I've always thrown a jig some at bedfish a lot, you know, over the years. Good thing about a jig that I love, it's the plastic can't fold up on you. You're not going to not hook a fish because the bait wadded up on the hook like you will on a Texas rig every once in a while. And when I pop them on that jig, when I hit them with a 3/4 ounce jig in the head, the odds of them coming off are almost none. Like they just don't come off. You know what I mean? So love that because they will come off on a Texas rig every once in a while when you're bed fishing. So they'll get it funny in the side of the mouth. The shape of the jig head, if it's a properly designed jig head, will make the bait come out more in the vertical position in the mouth. That one certainly has those attributes. Yeah, it's good. Somebody said, try the Grande Bass Airtail Rattler. For me, that bait is too long. I want something more compact. That bait has too much bait hanging off the hook. The fish can grab that bait by the tail real easy and drag it off the bed without getting the hook in their mouth. And a big problem with that is if you get a real big one on a bed and it grabs the tail of the bait and starts swimming and you set the hook and rip that bait away from that fish with that kind of violence, you can actually spook those real big ones and make them stay away from the bed, and it'll take a while for them to lock back in. So it can monkey you up. It can monkey you up bad. I'm making you want to go fishing. Brother, if you need me to make you want to go fishing when it's like coming into late March, like, dude, you need to up it a little. Like, we need to get you a little more addicted because you ain't addicted enough if it takes me to make you want to go right now. It's good. Somebody said about the Grande Bass Airtail Rattler, true, but it catches giants. If you're just going fishing and not sight fishing, Grande Bass Airtail Rattler is a phenomenal bait. I love it on a drop shot. That's my favorite way to fish it. I think it's best on a drop shot. And I don't like drop shotting, but if I drop shot, I like that one. And I like, what is their other rattlesnake, or I don't remember what it's called, their other ringworm that's like the Airtail Rattler, just doesn't have the air pocket. Dude, that's like, I drop shot that bait all the time. So when I do drop shot, I do use a Grande Bass bait most of the time. It is a great bait and catches big fish. But I don't like it. I don't like it for bed fishing. Carolina rig, it's a good Carolina rig bait too. It sure is. All right, we've reached the end of my high horse, my soapbox. If you want some questions answered, you probably asked some already. If I missed them, come on in. Come on in and drop some questions and I'll answer them. Dude, some of the comments on YouTube live streams these days are just, I love it. It cracks me up when I'm reading this. If y'all ever see me reading comments and I start smiling, I read some crazy comment. We got one over here talking about how the Koreans dropped a nuke on Cedar Creek. Maybe. That might explain some of the weird stuff you see out there on a Friday night, if you know what I mean. Old Cedar Creek. By the way, cheers, y'all. Get y'all some, too. It's pretty good. You ought to try it. Goes down nice. Fiend Fishing said rattlesnake and trophy hunter color. That's the one. The rattlesnake and the trophy hunter color, Grande Bass rattlesnake and trophy hunter color is probably my favorite drop shot bait of all time. Dude, some of the comments. Oh my gosh, are just money. Y'all go back and read through the comments. Fish south in a lake by the dam today, about 35 or 40 beds in one little creek arm. So It's crazy how it's like that because you'll go into one pocket and there'll be bedfish everywhere. And you can literally, like if you're in a creek arm, you go into one corner, there's bedfish everywhere. You can literally go into the next little corner of that creek arm and there'll be none. Like it's kind of weird. It's just like they didn't all pull up, like not a lot pulled up on the new moon, which is normal. Like the new moon doesn't push as many in as the full moon does. I will tell you, full moon is coming at the end, what is it, 25th? Full moon's coming the 25th. So that is a week from Monday. So that week from like the 27th, 28th, all the way through April 1st or 2nd, that's going to be the best bed fishing period on Lake Fork this year. That's when the best bed fishing on Lake Fork is going to happen for this year. Yeah, them fish are getting hammered by it. Yeah, the lake has gotten crowded. The lake has definitely gotten crowded. Is it legal to use live bait? Yeah, it is legal to use live bait. You know, as long as they can't use crappie, right? You can't use yellow bass. You can't use sport fish, but bait fish you can use, which is bluegill or brim, shad, black salties, water dogs, goldfish, all that's legal to use. Michael Bray's in the house. What's up, big dog? What's the hottest area on Lake Fork? So if you want to know what the hottest area on Lake Fork is, I'm going to give you the best tip I can. There's this app called the Fish Life app. The Life is spelled with a Y, L-Y-F-E. I just updated the spots on Lake Fork this week. So what the Fish Life app does is every lake on there on the premium packages has a guy like myself that is constantly updating, at least once a month updating the spots. And so you're getting the most in-depth and detailed information in any app. Like there's no like fish tips ain't got nothing on us, dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years on this app now, I think. 5 years for sure on the app we've been doing it, maybe more. But we were the first app that had a guy actually on that lake all the time updating it. And even now, Fish Tips isn't quite the same, but it's getting closer. And some of their packages for Fish Tips are like $150, whatever. Ours is a $20 a month. It's automatically recurring. You can use it, pay $20, use it for a weekend, cancel it. That's the only $20 you ever spend on it, right? So if that's how you need to use it. If you're from the area and you want to keep the subscription going and want to see what we do on updates month to month, you can certainly do that as well. But we just updated the Lake Fork package every month, and I'll give you guys some examples. So when you open it up, all right, what you'll see is like this. So that's Lake Fork with all the red waypoints on it, and I'll open those up. That blue dot is my house. That's where I live. So let's zoom in on some of the spots and see what's up. See what it says. All right, so you won't be able to see this. Like on the phone, it won't let you read it like I'm going to read it here. But we'll zoom in. And I don't know why our map on the app has got like real wind-blown water right now. So it's all whiting out, so you can't see anything. But when I open it up, you can see at that angle, when you click that red waypoint, and wherever you are, that blue dot will show up. That blue dot that was on my house, that will follow me wherever my phone is. So when you're driving up to this spot, you can see where you're traveling on the lake going to this spot, and you'll get a description like this. I'll read it to you. It says, this pocket is holding good fish and has good vegetation. They can be caught using frogs, small swim baits, and weightless plastics. Sight fishing can work too. So it gives you kind of a brief breakdown of what that area is. It's a pocket, what's there, it's got vegetation, and the baits that are working there. And then throughout the year, when we go to offshore points, it'll be like, hey, this is the long, slow tapering point. Fish are setting up on the north side or whatever. Find them with your electronics, use Carolina rig, use crankbait. And then in the wintertime, the outside edge of this creek channel building is holding big fish on the roots, on the standing timber located there. Black and blue jig works best. I mean, you're always getting that kind of information. Like it's like if you ask me where to fish, it's stuff that I would tell you, hey, go do this in this area. And we've got some shell bed points on there, some shallow points that I just put on there. And yeah, they're not really good right now, but like they can be good on the right day. And there's going to be fish coming to those any day now, because those fish that came in on the full moon at the 1st of March or into February are about to be out there. Some of those should be. So we went ahead and put some of that on there as well. But there's 20 spots. So if you want to know where the hottest area on Lake Fork is, go subscribe to the Fish Life app Lake Fork Premium Package. We've got quite a few lakes on there as well. You can find it in the Google Play Store, the App Store on Apple, and also for any device type, Apple included, at www.fishlife.net. What part of the lake would you suggest to look for spawners? Well, you can kind of go one into the other. It's more like it's hard to say an area because there's isolated, it seems like right now there's isolated pockets that really have them. Now, if you can get away from the boats, it helps. If you go where all the boats are, you're going to see spawners. Man, they're going to be hard to catch. Yeah, like you'll see a lot of boats in a lot of pockets in Little Caney. Guess what? Those fish are beat up, dude. Like they're going to be hard to catch. And I spend some time in there. When I'm in there, I'm usually looking for deeper fish that most people don't see. Is what I spend. Or I've got one little corner that not very many people have been making a pass through, so I'm in there doing it. But if you get around a bunch of boats, the spawning fish are going to be a lot harder to catch. When you get away from all the boats, it's harder to find spawning fish. You know what I mean? Like people are going to go where they're at, and so once a few people find them and word starts spreading, and then more and more, it's, how it is in bass fishing. So I've been spending some time really doing some exploring, and man, I've been swinging and missing, like I've got customers in the boat. We'll go through a whole cove and not see nothing, or see one or two and they're not locked on yet. We're doing some of that. And so there's days where we're not catching a whole lot of fish, but usually when I do that, by the end of the day, we'll find enough big quality size fish that when we get done at the end of the day, we look back and go, you know what, dude? We didn't catch but 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever, but like our best 5 went 25. You know what I mean? Like, so it's pretty good. If you come with me and your best 5 is 25 pounds and you're disappointed, I'm not your guy. Don't hire me because I'm going to be slapping hands with you after we do that, And it's pretty normal to catch 25 pounds on Lake Fork right now. It really is if you're doing the right things. How's the grass on Toledo? The grass on Toledo is good, man. I only got to fish the housing area when I was there because of how heavy the wind was. And that was before Bass Pro Tour was there or before Elite Series was there, which was funny because it ended up being where most of the tournament was fished during the Elite Series. Like, I'm not saying they hole jumped me, but it was ironic that, like, the only area I got to see I was very familiar with when I was watching the tournament because most of the tournament just happened to be fished there, which is kind of normal on Toledo, right? Like, housing in 6 miles kind of where it goes down 90% of the time. But in that area of the lake, the grass is phenomenal. There's deep grass. It's healthy. There's tons of it everywhere on the main lake, back in the creeks. It's almost too much grass, honestly. But, I mean, not too much for the fishery's health. It's like so much that it makes it difficult to fish at times, especially like once it mats out this summer. It's going to be, there's going to be some challenges to fishing that grass this summer. So, I mean, it wouldn't bother me none. I'd take my punching rod and go have a time. You know what I mean? Somebody, Colt's on here talking about Captain Oompa Loompa is better. And maybe. And you know what? I don't care at all. I do know he is definitely better at telling stories. I know that. But, old Captain Oompa Loompa, I ain't thought about him in a minute. If you know, you know. Do I start and stop a chatterbait or a steady retrieve like a spinnerbait? So what I do with a chatterbait is I let the grass impart the action on it. I like to fish around grass, try to fish around grass as much as I can, and I will kind of point the rod out with a slightly upward angle. That gives me good leverage to pop it out of the grass, and I just get the blade going, get it vibrating, and then start slowly slowing it down until I start to feel a little bit of grass. As soon as I feel it start to contact the grass a little bit, give it a little snap, it'll jump up out of that grass. It'll usually, what I'm trying to do is get that chatterbait to swim along and kind of hit the grass, pause for a second, and then you get a little burst out and then keep swimming. That's how you get most of your bites chatterbait. And that's how you're going to get your big bites chatterbait most of the time too. So I don't put a start-stop on it, but I do have the little twitches when I hit the grass, and that gives it that little jump and change of direction and change of pace. When is the best time to use a glide bait? A glide bait, man, a glide bait is a rabbit hole for some. It has been for me at times, a long time ago. But a glide bait does tend to correlate a little bit to a jerk bait bite. But if you're a good glide bait fisherman, you can fish it a lot of different ways. It can correlate to a topwater spook bite. When that's going, you can catch them on a glide bait if you know how to fish it right. Just the old line through swim bait, slow roll swim bait, springtime bite, you can catch them on a glide bait when that's going on if you know how to fish a glide bait. When they're biting a jerk bait in the wintertime, you can catch them on a glide bait if you know you know what I mean? So a glide bait can do a lot of things the more you know how to fish it. But it's a big bait. Like a glide bait's a deal. If you're going to throw a glide bait, it's a big bait bite, and you've got to commit to it, and you've got to understand that you're going to have some really terrible days where you get hardly any bites, sometimes no bites. When you're fishing a glide bait, that's going to be part of the equation. So it's a hard thing for me. There's guys that do it and commit to the glide bait, big bait, swim bait deal as a fishing guide. I have not really ever found a happy zone where I feel good about doing that with customers. Maybe I'm just not good enough at it. That could very well be it. But I've not ever dialed it in where I'm like, this is the best chance for my customer to catch 5 big ones. And that's my goal every day, is to get my customers as a team, my 2 customers. If I got 2 guys, it's as a team, those 2 guys, to catch the 5 biggest fish they can in the lake. That's how I go about my day. I'm not out there trying to catch the most fish. I'm trying to get them the 5 biggest bites I can. That's my mentality. I've yet to find a way where the glide bait is consistently the answer to that. There's moments where we throw them, but it's very rare. And I usually feel better about doing something else. Even if I'm on the shallow point, like the shallow wind-blown point's the thing where the glide bait's most notorious on Lake Fork. Even when I'm doing that with most of my customers, I feel like they got a better chance of catching them on with their fishing skills with a Carolina rig, a big square bill, a big topwater spook, a jerk bait at times. I feel like they have a better chance of catching 5 big ones doing that. They're going to get more bites for sure. And they're going to get big bites on those big. If you're in the big fish areas, you're going to get the big bites on the Carolina rig baby brush hog. You're going to get the big bites on the square bill. Like, those baits catch big fish too. So let's get more bites and increase our odds of catching big ones in that situation. That's just kind of how I see it. I like to target bigger fish, but I don't like to completely go all in on nothing but big fish deal and take more of the risk of having a really bad day bite-wise. I'll risk it a little bit, but I'm not going to go all in. That's just where my mentality is. That's how I see it. That's what works for me. Now, the beautiful thing about this sport is it can be different for a lot of different guys. Not everybody's going to do the same thing in the top 5 at any tournament you go to, whether it's Bassmaster or whether it's JC Outdoors or any other trail in between, Bass Champs, whatever, you name it, Team Trail, whatever. The top 5 guys are not going to be doing the same thing. So just because the glide bait thing has not been my deal since I started guiding does not mean it can't work for you, okay? It certainly can. And if you're dedicated to it, you can do a lot of things with the glide bait to make fish bite them. They definitely have drawing power. They get fish's attention and get fish to look at them. And there are a lot of different tricks and things that you can do to get fish to trigger and bite them. So glide baits can be very, very, very good. Have I ever fished west of 2946? Absolutely. I've been as far up that end of the lake as you can go. There's no doubt about it. Is Birch harboring giants? Yeah. So on day 1 of the Elite Series, Stetson Blaylock caught 37 pounds. I think maybe all of it, if not most of it, was caught in Birch. So yeah, Birch has had some good fish up. But there's been good fish up in a lot of places. Somebody asked, is this your first live stream? No. This is not even my first live stream like this week, dog. Or well, it is this week, but not this month. Somebody just called me a beautiful man. Now, I know that's a troll comment when they say that, boys. They're either drinking, smoking, or just crazy, one of the two. Dude, the troll comments are wild. Hey, you know what I love? You know what my favorite thing is? The one guy saying that this other guy on Lake Fork is better than me, he said it about 87 times that I've seen in the comments. Does he understand that every time he comments that, it helps this video go up in algorithm a little bit? And since he's putting so many comments in here, he's doing as much or more to help me get more exposure than the guy that he loves so much than the rest of y'all. Like, he's actually giving me more exposure and helping me be better than his buddy when it comes to the business of guiding. So appreciate it, bud. Man, I have gotten way behind in comments. My gosh, y'all put a lot of comments in here tonight. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and roll back up. Oh my God. These freaking troll comments. Oh my gosh. If you're watching this after the fact, if there's a way where you can go back and read the live chat, if you're an adult, because some of these are not for kids, but if you're an adult, please go back and read some of these comments. Somebody said, funny thing is I've never caught a fish on a square bill. I don't know what to tell you on that. That's kind of weird there because square bill is usually a pretty good bite getter. My first reaction would be, well, I guess you ain't fished it enough. I don't know. That's kind of an odd one there. I don't know too many people that I've ever heard say that. But I mean, listen, that's like we said, that's what makes one of the best things about this sport is you may not catch them on a square bill ever. Like it may not ever be your deal, and you may be a dude that goes and catches them on a jerkbait or a shaky head or whatever your deal ends up being. You may go down that same riprap bank that a lot of people tear them up on a square bill on. You may take a shaky head down there and clean them up better than everybody. That's what makes this sport awesome. Have I fished Lake Palestine? Not in a long time, but I have fished it, yeah. Chatterbaits. Somebody's saying chatterbait's my favorite of the jack. Yeah, the evergreen jackhammer is my favorite chatterbait if that's what you're talking about. Somebody asked where I was pulling these questions from. It was way up the list there. Dude, this comment's great, and I can actually read this one. He said, I drank Miller Lite one time. Then a few years later, I turned 21. OSP you showed is the best one I've used. Yeah, dude. So, that OSP Blitzmax is hard to get, but it is a great little crankbait, little square bill. It's really cool. Really cool little bait. Dude, these comments, my gosh almighty. I got to get better at keeping my focus. Somebody earlier said I need a moderator. You might be right. We might need a moderator here pretty soon. Bass Fishing with Randy said he's on OHI. If you wish him luck, hey, man, good luck, brother. You around some big ones out there. I hope you get 1 or 10 of them, my man. Either get 10 pounds at once or get 10 10-pounders. Either way, it'll be great. I don't know what's going on at Ivy these days. I don't know. I'm sure they're spawning out there. I'm sure Josh Jones is still out there looking at them on the screen somewhere, but they've got to be spawning. Can you say hi to my sister, Skyla? Absolutely. Hello, Skyla. If you're watching, I appreciate you watching, and Autumn, appreciate you watching as well. D-Dog Taddy said, nah, this the man's channel. No mods here. That's right. We just going in. What is the biggest fish you ever caught? I've been asked this question a lot lately for some reason. I don't know why. The biggest one I've personally ever caught is 11. Now, I have had 3 customers in my boat with me catch fish over 12 pounds. The biggest customer fish was 12 pounds, 13 ounces. I always have to throw that in there because my customer fish are bigger than my fish. Not as good as my guide customers, I guess. But I'd rather have it that way than the other way around myself. So, and these days, with what some of these guys do in West Texas with this live sonar, I feel like I got some catching up to do a little bit. But, it's just different. They're fishing out there. I've got 2 boys and a family life, and I can't go spend the time out there. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Ronnie Scott said Jones is on that lake that looks like chocolate milk. Yeah, most of those guys are now. Most of those guys have gone over to there's a little small, it's a little bitty lake, man. And the water's real dirty. The water's real muddy looking. But there's some giant bass in there. And the deal is when you get on them small lakes, some fish, especially when you're trying to hunt them down on live sonar in open water, when you get on Libby Lake, man, they just can't run away from you. They can't. Those fish cannot run away from you. So it does make the live sonar way easier when you're on a small lake. Hidden gems. Yeah, they ain't very hidden anymore. Everybody that knows, I got a guy that's been really nice to me that guides out there that uses that lake, so I don't want to say the name of the lake myself, and I don't have any dog in the fight out there, so I don't want to interrupt anything I don't want to send any extra traffic by mentioning the name of the lake, but yeah, those lakes aren't so hidden anymore. They're pretty, if you're in the inside of the industry or just even watching from the outside pretty closely, you know what lake they're on. Do I have any animals? Yeah, we got a couple dogs. We've got some of y'all know Skeeter Bug, the fishing pup. She's been around a few years now. My yellow lab that loves to go fishing. And then we've actually got a Great Pyrenees in the house. In the house, a Great Pyrenees named Bear, and he is a professional at making sure my couch doesn't go anywhere, and that's about all he does. He is the laziest dog I've ever seen in my life, but he's also probably the sweetest dog I've ever seen in my life. Bastards and Randy says, I'm going out with Brett Cannon on Ivy in the morning. That's a good pick. Brett is for real. Brett's always been super nice to me. We've crossed paths when we were both with 6th Sense. And I don't think Brett's with them anymore. I'm not with them anymore. But, man, Brett's always been a super nice guy to me. So Brett's a guy that I really like and respect in the industry. So do me a favor, tell Brett Cannon that I said hello. Can I say hi to Tucker? What's up, Tuck? What's your everyday carry? I know you at EDC. Man, I don't talk about that. Ever. D-Dog Tactical said his biggest largemouth is 10.6 and he's in Michigan. Now, did you catch a 10-pound largemouth in Michigan? If you did that, that has got to be something. I didn't know they had 10-pound largemouth in Michigan. They might. I don't know. But, I mean, I know they're not as big up there, so if you caught a 10.6 in Michigan, that's doing something. What am I dipping? Grizzly wintergreen pouches. Kids, don't ever do this. It's a horrible habit that's hard to get rid of. Lake Fork Creature Calls. Ronnie Scott said he got some Lake Fork Creature Crawl. That's a good bait. That's a bed fishing bait. 10.6 in Michigan on Lake Erie. My gosh. I didn't even know 10-pound largemouth existed up there. God almighty. That's cool, man. That's doing something there. That's awesome. Congratulations, dude. Are you thinking of doing any live talks at the Lake Fork Store restaurant this year? So if you don't know, we used to have seminars every 2 weeks. Every other Friday we would do in-person seminars at the tackle store at Lake Fork Marina. Before that, when it started, it was at Lake Fork Tackle in Emory. And then we kind of the crowd got bigger, and so we ended up moving to Lake Fork Marina Tackle Store. And, I did those for like 6 years, I think, every other Friday. Rarely missed one. If we did, it was a rare circumstance, but pretty much every other Friday for 6 years straight, I was at a seminar on a Friday evening. Man, as my kids have gotten older, that's been a harder thing. I've missed some stuff, and them boys are getting old. I don't want to miss anything. You know what I mean? So it's a family deal. I don't think we're going to do any this year. We might on a special occasion do one, but I don't think we're going to do any this year. And that's just a deal for me where it's so much easier for me on a Friday when I have time to come in here and talk to you guys right here, and I can get the same information to you. It's not as fun. It's not as cool as being in person and getting the back and forth with the crowd that we had back then, but it's a sacrifice I'm having to make right now for where I'm at in my family life. You know what I mean? So I know you guys understand and support that too, so I appreciate that. These freaking comments. Am I fishing tomorrow? I am not fishing tomorrow. We're supposed to have baseball practice tomorrow, and I'm the coach, but I don't think we're going to get it in with the rain. Going out on Fork again tomorrow and Sunday, do you think the best chance of catching a true giant is sight fishing, shallow in general, or backing out and looking for stage areas? If you're live scoping, if you have live scope or active target, if you have forward-facing sonar, and you're good with it, then, like if you've done it, if you've caught some good fish doing it, like if you got some skins on the wall with the live scope, then that's your best chance probably to catch a giant. But that's an acquired skill, man. That's not something you just turn it on and do it. Like, if you haven't done it before, you're going to go out there, especially on Lake Fork, where the fish are a little more reluctant to bite, more pressured than other places. You're going to go out there and spin your wheels and irritate yourself with all the fish you see that you can't catch and can't. Most of them can't even get them to pay attention to your bait and all that. Like, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get frustrated. If you're not an experienced live scope guy that's actually executed and caught some fish on it, then your best bet is probably to look for one on the bed and just keep covering water until you see one on the bed that is just ready to go. Ready to go. Just be relentless in the amount of water that you cover and the amount of bed fish that you're willing to leave and look past until you find that giant that is stuck on that bed and willing to come back to it every time that you throw in there. If you look hard enough, you'll find one of those and you'll catch her and she'll be big. I will say this, when you start finding fish that are committed, catch a couple so that you're good at gauging the size of them off beds, because some of these fish don't look near as big in the water as when they come out. So you need to, if you see a couple half decent fish that are locked on beds, go ahead and pop them, catch them, so you get a good size gauge on what you're looking at. D-Dog says, I hate sight fishing. They all look at my bait / lure like I'm stupid. You need to come on a guide trip with me during sight fishing season one time. We'll show you how to make them. We'll make them react. You know, we make, what's that old saying about crapping or getting off the pot? Like, that's what we do to bed fish. That's what I do to bed fish, and how I teach people to bed fish is we basically force that fish to either show us that it's not going to commit, or it's going to give us some kind of clue as to what makes it get more aggressive, and then once we find that, we pound that to death until we irritate it into biting. And Jason Strange says, I try to catch every bed fish I see. Hey, when I'm out by myself just fun fishing, listen, if they're going to sit there and stare at my boat, like, they're going to see my cricket. You know what I mean? Like, if you'll stare at a 20-foot boat, I bet you'll bite my cricket. And I have yet, in my 41 years of life, I have yet to find a fish that I didn't want to catch. Like a bass, I want to catch them all. Now, I'm not a big-time fisherman and multi-species guy. I can live without all the other stuff. But for whatever reason in my DNA, if I think there's a bass that wants to bite, like, I need to catch him. I want to catch him back. So, all right. Questions are slowing down a little bit. Skeeter Bone said, well, I had it down to 2 tons of tackle for the guide trip until you started with the bed fishing. Yeah, yeah. That's the way it always goes in fishing. That's the way it always goes in fishing. Man, questions are slowing down. If you got some more, pop them in there. I'll keep going trying to answer them, but we're going to start wrapping this thing up a little bit. It's a great time to be on lake, man. You know, it's not, Lake Fork's never, I don't say never. Lake Fork is rarely easy to go catch fish on. Those fish just get so much pressure. They've got so much bait, all that stuff. But when you start catching them right now, you got a good chance of having some good ones mixed in for sure. We are a rare breed when it comes, yeah. If you've got that disease I've got, it's a real thing, and not everybody has it. But if you got the disease I got, it's the one thing in my life that I don't get tired of. No matter how bad or how good it goes. If I go out and I whack them, man, yeah, I want to go back the next day and catch them again. If I go out and I struggle, I almost want to go back more. Like, I can't even get home before I'm like, dude, I got to go figure them out. Like, it just never, ever gets old to me. How do we see your available dates? I can tell you what they are. They are May 1st and May 7th are my next 2 available dates right now. And then we've got some openings the rest of May and June from there. So that's what they are. And you can just call us or text us. The number's on the website. You can go to yourlakeforkguide.com. And the phone number is on the website. You can call or text that number. You can email us. All that good stuff. I'm getting phone calls over here right now, actually, that I'm missing. So if I missed your phone call, I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Will they be on beds during the solar eclipse weekend, April the 8th? Yeah, I mean, the whole month of April, there's going to be bass on beds. Now, how many there will be, how many pairs there will be, how many females there will be, that will vary day to day, especially with moon phases, but there will be fish on beds every year for the entire month of April. There will be fish on beds every day. Are we still coming out with the jig? Yeah, it's coming, man. The manufacturing people overseas just keep pushing it back on us, but it is coming. It could be any day now. Greetings from Alaska. Do you think OH Ivy is pressured too much? Thinking of hitting up Ivy or the other lake that I said I didn't want to mention earlier that some guys are guiding on. Yeah, Ivy's pressured a lot. Ivy's pressured a lot. That other small lake's starting to get pressured for how big it is, but it's still producing. But it's a matter of time before those fish get tough. I mean, listen, if you want to go fish on these lakes that are famous for big bass, you're going to have to be okay and comfortable fishing for pressured bass that don't want to bite very good. It's no different here at Lake Fork. Same story. They're going to be harder to catch. Understand that in your expectations going in, and understand that you're going for a chance to catch a giant, a real chance, the best chance you can have to catch a giant, because you're going to fish where they live. That doesn't mean you're going to catch one. You know, it's not going to be easy. Catching big fish is not easy. Not easy at all, especially on these pressured lakes. But there's nothing wrong with going and taking a swing, man. Both those lakes got them, obviously. And I don't think you can go wrong going to either one if you have the expectations of I'm going for a chance at a giant because I'm going to fish where they live and I'm going to go fish hard. Poor Juan. Poor Juan. First of all, welcome, Juan. Welcome to the Addicts Club. And that's nothing, buddy. It's going to get worse. He says, hey, I'm new into fishing, and I did not know how expensive this hobby is. I done spent $280 at a local Bass Pro Shop. Yeah, that's not a lot. Like, I know it's a lot to you, and $280 can be a lot to anybody. It's a lot to me. But if you're going to chase this rabbit down the hole, it's only going to get worse when it comes to that money aspect. I will tell you that. Have I been to Kimberlin Ranch? No, I've never even heard of that, actually. So never heard of that. So. All right. I'm going to get going, guys. I got some phone calls I missed I need to return. Hey, thank y'all so much for joining us, as always, on the live stream. Thank y'all for watching the YouTube videos. Those of you that do more than that and, you know, order map chips, subscribe to the app, book guide trips, man, you know what, dude? I get to do a pretty cool job every day, and I owe all of y'all for that. So thank you very much. And I will keep doing everything I can to try to help you guys catch more and bigger fish, and I will always love our fellow man, because that is what we're about here, your Lake Fork Guide. And we will see y'all next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.